ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Prime 1 Studio 1/3 scale statue unboxing and review video. Now today we are going to be taking a look at none other than Joaquin Phoenix Joker in the iconic red suit. Now I personally could not be more excited. I got mine from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is in the description below. They have 12-month installment plans and a points-based reward system. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe and bell notification icon so you're notified as soon as a brand new review goes live on the channel. Also, let me know if you are enjoying the statue content. There is a ton more on the way, including some very exciting pieces from Queen Studios and J&D, and they might just be companion pieces for this statue. It's definitely not something you're going to want to miss. Stay tuned. Now, we don't usually spend a ton of time on the box art, and we're not going to here either. But Prime 1 and Blitzway have done an amazing job. The box art is stunning. It kind of makes me wish that they would include posters with these darn things because the boxes are so big that you can't really display them. This panel right here wins Prime 1 the coolest box art award of all time. If you flip the box on its side, you have an old-timey TV set with the DC logo on the dial, Prime 1 Studios, and of course Live with Murray Franklin, with the blood spatter in the background. This, as I said, coolest box art ever. Now, as for the statue himself, there is a lot to discuss. Quite surprisingly, because a statue usually is in one pose with a couple of bits and pieces. This guy, though, breaks the mold entirely. He comes with more pieces than I have ever seen with any statue. Now, I don't know if that's the Blitzway influence, because the Dark Knight Joker also came with a bunch of different parts that you could put on the base. It's basically a very neat and simple way of doing storytelling without actually having to include sculpted-in elements. They are removable if you find it too busy, but they can also add a ton of detail. We will be going into much more detail though in just a second. Now initially, I wasn't super excited by this piece, so I hesitated on picking him up. But hopefully throughout the course of this video, I can show you how good this piece truly is. Now, starting off with the display base first, completely undressed. This is how it comes without any of the accessories on it, and it looks great. In my mind, you cannot get more iconic than the staircase scene. It's the moment where Arthur finally snaps and lets loose, allowing the Joker within to take over. And that's exactly what we have in this staircase. It is a relatively simple design, but there is a ton of space around the base. You do have a couple of crumpled up bits of paper, a couple of crushed cups. Those are all fully sculpted. So too is the base. It's a very heavy polystone. Most of the weight for the statue is in the base itself. The texture for the brickwork and the concrete looks exceptional. There are a ton of washes and a ton of highlights in the grout. You also have these very glossy trash bags around the back. When you do actually see the back of the display base, which isn't very often, these absolutely will catch your eye. The super high gloss is a perfect contrast against the otherwise very matte display base. They are fully fixed in place and they are fully sculpted, although they do look super realistic. Initially, I thought these were real squishy trash bags. You also do have the railing on one side. That means that this is an asymmetrical base. Because it's just a small cutaway of the staircase, they couldn't really do the railing on both sides. It simply wouldn't make sense. The staircase would be far too narrow for the size of the steps. The railing looks suitably metallic. It also has washers and some highlights over the top. Here we have all the parts and pieces, and for a statue in a fixed pose, this guy comes with a ton of stuff. Now, starting off with one of the larger accessories first, you do get a shopping bag. Now, it is made of a very interesting material. It's kind of this synthetic plastic fabric. Now, honestly, this is kind of what I was expecting it to be made out of. It feels like a real shopping bag. You do have a working zipper up top, which means you can store some of his other accessories inside. Now, it doesn't obviously look like a brand new shopping bag. It's filthy. There is weathering on every surface, all the way around. Even the zipper looks dirty and grimy. Now this I like to have on the side of the display base, which you will see a little bit later on. If you do happen to get the bonus version from Prime 1, you will receive this Joker mask. Now he can wear it, but I would caution you against leaving it on for a long period of time. It is a very hard rigid plastic and his head sculpt is made of a softer plastic, so this could potentially damage the sculpt itself. Now it is super straightforward, some green rooted hair on the sides, then some vibrant red and blue around the front. It isn't detailed on the inside, but you do have an elastic strap. I like to tuck this up behind so I can just nicely rest it on the base. Again, you'll see where I place it in a moment. Another one of the larger accessories is the Everything Must Go sign. It of course is pre-broken, you get a couple of spare pieces, and they are made of polystone. Initially I thought this would be made of cardboard or even wood, but it isn't. This is very heavy duty. The lettering is actually stuck onto the surface so you can feel the raised edges, and I do like how they've done the crack. You have some detail and texture on the inside, as if this was actually wood. You even have some airbrush shading on the backside, which is something that, honestly, you're never really going to see. Another piece that's made of a very sturdy material is the bouquet of flowers. The rod section is made of metal. I didn't expect that, just as I didn't expect the sign to be made of polystone. It's rather hefty. I like to store this in his bag. You also have some shading up top for the flowers. These are a more rubbery plastic, so even though they are sculpted very thinly, you don't really have to worry about breakage. Unfortunately, there's no real way to get him to hold this, but it is a nice piece to just pop on the base. Something that people have criticized is the rat friend. He is quite a large rat. The detail is there. There is a ton of texture in the fur, his eyes are nice and glossy, and his feet are fully sculpted with some detail on the underside. However, he does look very plasticky, and that's because he is plasticky. The tail is a rubbery material, and so too is the rest of the rat. This is something that I have seen some people omit from their display base, but I kind of like to tuck him around the corner next to the rubbish. One of the coolest pieces for me is the joke book. I thought this was made of paper initially because of how realistic it looks. It looks like waterlogged paper. It's kind of expanded just a little. You've got the binder down one side, and the texture on the surface is very realistic. This is also polystone. Prime 1, you've tricked me once again. You've got, of course, all of the wording on the front. It is accurate to the movie, and so too is the detail on the back. Now, once again, just like the bouquet, you can't really have him hold this, but it's a nice piece to set the stage and tell the story of the film. Something that I do really wish he could hold is the handgun. Now, just like the notebook, yes, you can pop it on the display base, and it adds to the storytelling element, but it would have been a very nice touch to have it in his hand. Now, you can spring open this section, rotate the inside, and there is some bullet detail. Plus, you do have a real working hammer up the back. The grips are very nicely done, and so too is the finish, although this is made of plastic, not metal. I would have loved to have seen just a little bit of chipping around the edges, because I don't think this was a brand new pristine gun in the film. Now, do be careful with this one. It is very tiny, but it's super well detailed. It actually looks like a real lit cigarette. There are some lines across the surface, some texture down below, and it is ever so slightly crumpled towards the edge. I would have absolutely loved to see some smoke plumes off the edge of this, but this cigarette is a really nice piece. You do get two different poses for his hands, one with an open palm gripping gesture and the other as though he's about to start clicking when he's in his dancing pose. I think those suit the statue just a little bit more, but don't worry, we will be trying both throughout the course of the video. There is a ton of vein work and musculature and texture on the surface. I also like the redness of the palms and the knuckles. For some reason though, the open palm hands on mine look a little bit more matte, and they are lacking most of that redness that you can see on the hand on the left. They are made of a rubbery style plastic, so you don't have to worry about the fingers snapping off. They kind of feel like super-sized Hot Toys hands, which I guess isn't really a bad thing. And then lastly, in the instruction manual, you do get some paperwork plus his card that details his condition. It does of course say, "Forgive my laughter, I have a condition," and then the full details are on the back. You can have him holding this card, and we will do that a little bit later on. You do also get an image of his mother that says, "Love your smile TW" for Thomas Wayne, and then an image of Thomas and Martha Wayne, plus little Bruce in the background. You do get "Don't forget to smile," but it's been crossed out and it says "Don't smile." All of these pieces are made of cardboard. What we are going to do now though is get the statue himself back out here and take a closer look. All of that stuff that we literally just spoke about can fit on the display base. Now it's all modular, which means it's up to you to decide which parts you want to use and where you want to put them. Now the instruction manual does give you a rough guide as to where they would put them, but at the end of the day it's not fixed, it's not set in stone. Now I like to have the bag just propped up on the side with the flowers poking out the top, and the little rat friend just lurking around the corner. He does look really good tucked in right next to the trash bags like you saw earlier, but I also think that that spot works perfectly. It also means that there are a couple of other spots now freed up by not having the rat friend tucked behind, because if you did have him in there next to the trash bags, you probably would never be able to see him. Now the "Everything Must Go" sign I like to leave around the back next to those trash bags. The ledge that they've left there is perfectly sized to fit the sign on top of it. I have seen some people use the broken pieces around the front, which you could absolutely do as well. Lastly, I do like to have the notebook and the gun resting below Joker. Now moving up the staircase, you can see that the stairs, number one, are very big but very well detailed. There is also this speckling pattern on the surface that makes it look like actual stone. Now on camera it does come across a little bit more apparent than it does in person. Because you're not looking at it so closely, it just blends in perfectly. Moving up to Joker himself, the outfit is full fabric. He does have his white socks underneath, and he does have real laces on the shoes. Mine did come a little bit loose out of the box, so I did have to tighten them up just a touch. But it's totally fine, they are real shoelaces, you can absolutely do that. Now the shoes are two different shades of brown. You do have a lighter brown for the main body, then a darker brown for the top section where the laces are, around the back, and for the toe cap. There are also two different finishes. The toe cap is slightly glossy, whereas the main section is a lot more matte. There is shading, there is texture, the shoes look great. Now moving up to the pants, they are a very classic cut for a pair of suit pants. Of course, this movie was set, I'm pretty sure, in the 80s, it could have been the 70s, so the style wasn't quite where it is today. But they've captured that perfectly. They're slightly flared towards the bottom, and they hug the legs more up the top towards the thighs. Now, the red is something that I find a little questionable. It's ever so slightly too vibrant for me. Now, I have seen the real-life Joker suit in person, the prop from the movie, and it was lighter than expected, but not quite as light as this. I was hoping it would be a little bit more burgundy, that more deep, rich red. Now the jacket is also made of fabric and fully wired. It's lined on the inside with this shiny material, but it does have wires all the way around, including the back pieces. That means you can manipulate everything to have it kind of looking like it's blowing in the wind. It's a nice touch to highlight the inside of the jacket normally you wouldn't really see if it was just laying flat down. But But if you did want it to lay flat down, that's something you could totally do as well. The wires give you ultimate freedom in terms of posability for the vents and the sides of the jacket. It's something that was completely unnecessary, but a very nice touch at the same time. The cut of the jacket is also very classic, just like the pants. Something that we haven't quite touched on yet though is the vest and the shirt. The pattern to me looks accurate, he doesn't have a tie on, which again is accurate, and the colour of the vest looks on point. Once again, all made of fabric. Now you will have to futz with the collar out of the box. Simply tuck it into the vest so it exposes a little bit more of the neck. Now this isn't something that most statue collectors are used to doing, but futzing with the outfit is absolutely required to get him to look as good as possible. Now the same thing can be said for the cuffs of the shirt. Mine were tucked in, simply pull them out to expose them just a little bit more. He does also have the swappable hands that you saw earlier. One of them does have a little bit of a weaker magnet, which is on the right side for me. It doesn't grip onto it super securely, it's a little bit loose. But at the same time, it's not going anywhere. You can also have him holding the card, which I've seen some people do. For me, I don't really love that idea, I more prefer him just clicking. It just suits the pose for me a little bit better. Now moving on to the thing that I'm sure you've come here to see. The head sculpt. We will be zooming in and taking a much closer look, but starting off with it on the body, I really like it. Is it perfect? No, I don't think it is. Now you can actually install the mask on it as we discussed in the accessory segment, and the cool part is that you can see his eyes peeking out through the holes. It is ever so slightly unsettling. Now for me, one of the biggest reasons why I bought the statue was because of the Joaquin Phoenix head sculpt, so I won't be displaying him wearing the mask, but it's good to see that this is an option they actually explored. 9 times out of 10, if they are including a mask like this, either with a bank robber Joker or a Heath Ledger Joker, it's not going to be wearable. But here it absolutely is. Now it does pop on very simply, and it can remove just as simply with that elastic strap around the back. Just be careful with yours, the elastic actually came out of the little pin that was holding it in place. It was very simple to repair and I don't think it's going to happen again, but it was something that did happen to me when I was trying to put the mask on Joker. Now this is how he's going to be displayed 100% of the time. I think this head sculpt is too good to hide behind that mask. I am curious, do let me know what you think of it down below. Here we have the head sculpt up close and personal. Now for the most part, I really like the way this head sculpt looks, but the reason we detached it from the body was so that we could check out a bunch of different angles. Now from certain angles, I think the likeness is 100%, such as right there. But from others, you start to lose it just a little. Don't get me wrong, I still really like it, but I do think it does have its strong sides. Now I do like the sculpt of the teeth. They are slightly wonky, as you can see, one is sunken in, and you do have the cleft lip, which is accurate to Joaquin Phoenix. I also love the texture and detail of the skin. It's a nice, sickly pale white, which is perfect for Arthur Fleck. The eyes look suitably realistic with a high gloss to them and some red around the edges. The hair sculpt is also on point. It's multiple layers of this rubbery plastic that come together beautifully. The color isn't overly saturated, but it's not super muted at the same time. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't really associate this particular version of Joker with the vibrant neon green hair. This is a more subdued look and it works perfectly with this statue. Now the head sculpt, as we discussed, does have its good and bad sides. Shooting it from below, I don't think this is his best angle. It still looks good, but I think by far the best angle is from above. So if you can, display him down below. He is looking up, so you're not going to lose out on a ton of detail on the face. It's not like you are hiding anything. And I do think it highlights, as I said, this head sculpt's best side. Now for a quick side-by-side comparison, and a sneak preview at an upcoming review. Here we have the Prime 1 Joker and the J&D Arthur Fleck. Now they are on the exact same turntable and I have not adjusted the height of the camera, so the height difference you're seeing here is actually accurate. Now I think these two look incredible standing side by side. Joker is ever so slightly taller than Arthur and that works perfectly for me. I bought the Arthur to be a companion piece to this red suited Joker, and I think the juxtaposition works marvellously. Arthur is in a much more simple pose, straight up and down, whereas Joker is much more flamboyant, he's dancing. Now as well, I can use some of those accessory pieces to go along with the J&D base. The J&D base is far more simple and subdued. I can pop the sign on there and maybe the rat friend, maybe the bag with the flowers. It's super customizable, and now I can have each of the bases telling their own story. So these two are going to work very nicely side by side. Now just wrapping up on the Joker himself. This is an incredible statue. Is he a perfect one? No, I don't think he is. There are a couple of things that let this guy down ever so slightly. Number one, the color of the suit. I straight up think it's too vibrant. It's too bright of a red. If it was toned down and it was a little bit darker, I think it would be ever so slightly more accurate. But other than that, he does hit on all the right notes. The pose is spectacular. It's of course him on the staircase letting loose. This is the moment where Arthur became the Joker, at least in my mind. The base is great, I love the accessories, you've got swappable hands, and a ton of storytelling. That's why I really do like this piece. The base actually steps you through the evolution of the Joker. You've got the sign from the start of the movie, you've got the rat friend from the alleyway, you've got the flowers from when he's doing his performances in the clown makeup, you've got the notebook, you've got the gun, you've got the cigarette, and you also have the Joker mask. It all comes together to, as I said, show you the evolution of this version of the Joker. It works so very nicely. Now, as I said at the start of the video, I got mine from toyswonderland.com. I have included the link in the description down below. They have 12-month installment plans and a points-based reward system. I also have to say a huge thank you to my buddy Slam Collections for helping me film this review. It was a feat because of how much of a beast this piece is, but I think it was absolutely worth it. I love this statue. Check out the link to his Instagram down in the description. Also, while you're down there, check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection, and of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.